Devlin, Untamed.
Martin Devlin, Lachlan Waugh, iOS, It's Only Sport. That's the name of our radio show, and that's the name of this podcast, and welcome to it. Every day on the platform, 1 till 4, we produce and present the only independent daily sports radio show in New Zealand. You've got to download the Platform app, and then you can listen wherever you are. And if you subscribe to Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to 9 hours of daily free programming wherever you want at your listening leisure and pleasure. Today on the podcast, well, obviously we're talking cricket. We'll update all of that. Surely the Black Caps aren't going to lose this test. And if we did to a fifth string or even sixth string South African side, would that be the worst ever test loss for the New Zealand men's cricket team? Worse than losing at home to Bangladesh by 8 wickets? Greg Martin on the podcast as always. Marto, the big Super Rugby launch yesterday. Is there much hype and hoopla in Oz about that? Considering that pre-season starts this weekend for the NRL. Speaking Super Rugby, Rob Penney. Has he got the toughest job in that competition, taken over from Scott Robertson, who won, 7 titles in a row? Rob Penney, of course, was the NPC coach, and Razor was his assistant. Now it's all flipped around. Razor, All Black coach is where you know it. And Rob taking charge for the first time this year. We talked to him on the podcast. We start the show, as always, the same way. Tablets in hand, I say, gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. What about them Warriors? Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
It's official. The Warriors are overtaking this country. The momentum from last year is only increasing. And a team that, let's not forget, 2 years ago was an NRL joke. Dejected, dispirited, down and out. Had only won 6 games out of 24 in those awful press conferences where Stacey Jones was saying the players aren't interested. They don't want to play for the jersey. They don't want to defend. They don't want to try. Well, the Warriors are not only the hottest sporting ticket in town right now, but winning hearts and minds right across the country. And this is across demographics, psychographs, all age groups, colour, sex, whatever. 3 things this week demonstrating such. Number 1, yesterday's news that Sunday's first pre-season hit-out versus Wests has already sold 12,000 tickets in Christchurch. Impressive? That's very impressive. Number 2, Heritage jersey release this week, sold out in 18 minutes. They've had to do a reprint. Now, I don't know how many units they originally printed. It could have been 1,000, but regardless, again, it makes for a great headline. Number 3, at last night's Halberg Sports Awards, the People's Choice Moment of the Year, Warriors comeback versus Cronulla, round 5, last year's NRL. It is real, people. It's happening. The excitement and the build-up to this current season isn't imagined. It's not some cheesy PR marketing company press release. The momentum which began last year is only increasing, and it's gathering the sort of pace New Zealand rugby must be looking at with envy and a bit of worry. And if they're not, well, they should be. 12,000 pre-sales for a warm-up match that doesn't even feature the Warriors' best players? Look, if the Chiefs versus Crusaders Super Rugby opener Friday week gets that or more in Hamilton, Mark Robinson will be sending out more press releases, and he says management speak cliches at press conferences. I'm not saying league is becoming the number 1 sport in New Zealand, and I'm definitely not saying that the Warriors are going to overtake the All Blacks as our national team, or that league will overtake rugby as our national sport. The Warriors will never be as big as the All Blacks, but they don't need to be. What we're seeing right now is real. It is happening. This team is one of the most popular sports teams in the country. It's tangible, it's undeniable, and right now, the Warriors are irresistible.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
Greg Martin is just a couple of minutes away. Lock, what's the headlines, pal?
I got big breaking news.
Right.
Can you give me an air horn? Can you give me some big loud sound effect, Martin? Something, please.
You can't handle the truth.
Okay, that's kind of
do.
topical.
Yeah,
That'll
man.
work. All right, there we go. Dame Noeline Taurua's job as head coach of the Silver Ferns is up for grabs. Now, that sounds a bit confusing. Let me elaborate. In a statement this afternoon, Netball New Zealand said the organisation and Dame Noeline Taurua had agreed to go to the open market for the role. Netball New Zealand and Dame Knowles were quoted as saying the decision was made in the best interests of the Silver Ferns and integrity of the sport. However, Dame Noeline Taurua, who is contracted with Netball New Zealand until the end of Feb, has said she will reapply for the role and felt the process was the right decision to make. So they are doing what the Green Party sort of did last year when they tried to get rid of the leader. No one actually within the organisation put their hand up or were worthy enough to be the leader, and so they just kept James Shaw. Could the same thing happen here? Dame Noeline Taurua just gets the job back because she probably is the best coach for the job. What a waste of time then if that's the case.
Well, I mean, I think more this sounds to me it's about her and about her asking herself those questions. You know, I read a fantastic...
Well, if you're asking yourself the questions, then you're not right for the job anymore.
Well, maybe...
You shouldn't be asking questions of yourself and your own ability to do the job, surely.
Well, I don't think she's probably questioning her ability. She's more probably just questioning, after all of this time, you know, is the voice getting stale? And, you know, only those players, I suppose, can answer that. But in terms of tactical nous, awareness, bringing new players on, look, whoever gets the job, if she doesn't get it, is going to, well, have to be right now a better coach than she is. And that's what she's putting it out there, I suppose, saying, hey.
Oh, yeah, I just think it's a waste of time, to be honest. Either you don't feel you're good enough for the job and you step down, or you do feel like you are and you back yourself.
Yeah, well, I would like to see her reappointed, no question.
Same. Absolutely. All right, cricket. It's lunch in the second test, day 3 of the second test between New Zealand and South Africa in Hamilton. South Africa 88 for 3. They lead by 119 runs. Of course, the Black Caps were bowled out for 211 yesterday. Their last 6 wickets fell for a mere 54 runs, if my maths is correct. 54. How poor is that?
Yeah, it's terrible, mate. It's awful. Awful to watch.
Yeah, some Super Rugby news. The Melbourne Rebels' hopes of surviving.
Might have been 64. I think we were 143 for 5, weren't we? And then...
We were 157 for 4 when Blundell got out, and he was our 6th to last wicket, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Melbourne Rebels' hopes of surviving beyond this season are swiftly fading after 10 administrative staff, including Chief Executive Baden Stevenson, were made redundant, with the remaining staff and coaches put on 4-month contracts to see out the Super Rugby campaign. Sounds like it is all over for the Melbourne Rebels. Kiwi swimmer Erica Fairweather has picked up her second medal at the World Swimming Championships in Doha with a silver in the 200-metre freestyle final. That goes along with her gold medal in the 400-metre freestyle earlier in the week. One person has been killed and up to 15 injured in a shooting at the end of the parade to celebrate the Super Bowl win by the Kansas City Chiefs. Very sad news coming out of Kansas with that. I saw a story talking about players having to comfort young kids who were caught up in the fiasco of it all. Very sad news. And here's a great story, just finally. The New Zealand women's team pursuit team have shattered the Oceania record at the Oceania Cup Championships. This just weeks after winning gold at the Nations Cup in Adelaide, where they beat current world champions Great Britain. That ride in the Oceania Cup Championships also setting the quickest women's team pursuit time ever recorded inside the Cambridge Velodrome. Well done to our Kiwi women's team pursuit cycling group. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin.
That is a disgusting act.
The platform.
Marto joins us every Thursday. He is a Triple M breakfast host out of Brisbane, a former Wallaby. So, always concerned about Australian rugby. Super Rugby starting, not this weekend, but next weekend. Big launch yesterday. The Melbourne Rebels in real Stook Street. They've sacked the CEO, well, made him redundant. Sacked, made redundant. They've got rid of the CEO, 10 other admin staff, and they put the coach and the players only on 4-month contracts. What realistic possibility that franchise still exists in 12 months' time. Plus, the Brisbane Broncos. It's all underway. In a few weeks, the NRL, but the preseason has started. Bit of biffo between some of the players. We'll talk all about that. He joins us as he does every single Thursday out of Brisbane, where their league stars have play fights that turn into wrestles that then turn into biffo. Greg Martin, what the hell is going on with these young men? I mean, what are they all meatheads?
Oh, mate, where do I start? So they had a fan day and there was about 8,000 idiots turned up in the sun. And actually, I saw some of the footage. They were a bit rude to them because, you know, players don't really want to be bothered with fans and stuff. And then they all went and got on the grog, and only one of them, like, if they're at their fittest, and this is the weekend before NRL starts is usually the most possibility that a rugby league player will get arrested because they're really fit and they have a weekend off, blow off steam, they have 2 beers and they all fall over. So it's a real danger. And listen, the most embarrassing thing is that Pat Carrigan, an Origin front rower, was able to be pushed around by a little old halfback who's 34 years of age. That's probably what needs investigating here. What's going on? So you guys aren't serious, are you? Because I, as an old school footballer, if there were cameras, we would have lasted probably 3 days.
Totally. Yep, that's it. Yep. Tim Horan would never have been Tim Horan, mate. He would have been arrested and Timaru and be in jail for trying to destroy. Don't ever tell him that I've told you that, mate. I know. Hey, Melbourne Rebels' second topic lost 20 million in the hole. They're going to lose another 4 or 5 this year. They've just laid off 10 admin staff. I hate it when people lose their jobs in any industry. The coach and the players are now being put on 4-month contracts, which last till the end of the competition. Yesterday at the big rah-rah launch, all the cheeseheads were sitting around saying, "Oh no, a 12-team competition over there." Mate, what is their future apart from bleak?
Well, nothing. The future is nil because they were some of the richest people in Melbourne were funding them. Now some of them are going to lose their house, they reckon. They've got to put up, all the directors have got to cover that $20 million, and some of them will be putting their homes on the line. And that's what it means to be a director. Some people forget that. So they're in trouble. They won't get anyone. Mate, they're Gonski. But the reality is, do we really need 5 teams in Australia?
No, you don't.
And the answer is no. We need 3 at the absolute maximum. We were at our best when there was 2. Fair enough in the Brumbies joint. That's all we need. We need 3 teams. However they can want to configure that, do that, because that's all the players we've got. It was showing again. I've been saying it for years. We don't have the cattle. We will have enough cattle if we only have 3 teams.
Yeah, at our age in life, you always look back at some of the cockhead decisions you've made and think, I wish I had my time again. And I wonder whether any of these Super Rugby administration bozos ever look back and go, we had it. It was a goose. It was laying golden eggs. It was called Super 12. All the best players played. And Greg, and I keep looking back at these television ads that were made for the competition, late 90s, 2000s, and all of the All Black stars feature in those ads. You can't do that anymore because none of them are here. And now you've got a Super 12 competition where there's 2 or 3 of the sides under serious financial stress. They can't find a CEO for the organisation. They're putting people on, week by week. I mean, I don't know, mate. I actually fear for it, but I fear more that those in charge. I mean, what do they have a clue? Are they actually looking at what we're looking at?
Yeah, well, look, they can't be that stupid. They've risen to those positions because they've got some intelligence. They're just telling lies and saying, no, this will work. The reality is, the Australians who are overseas, there'd be 2 Wallaby teams who are overseas who could beat our Wallaby team that plays here in Australia. So we're getting to the stage of where the Australian soccer team, where all our best players are overseas and we only assemble them 3 days before we play a test match against you blokes. That's where it'll get to, and you guys are getting to the same place. Well, don't you reckon you'd put an overseas All Blacks team together that would beat the All Blacks team from home? It'd have to be the case, wouldn't it? The problem. There's not enough money here.
Well, we allow ours to go on sabbaticals and then they come back. I think that's the ultimate fear for New Zealand rugby. That it ends up becoming like South Africa, where all the best players are overseas, and this ties into that Super Rugby launch yesterday. And good on them. They're trying their best to hype this up, to rah this up. Yeah. Because 12,000 tickets have been pre-sold for a Warriors West Tigers match in Christchurch on Sunday. 12,000. Really? 12,000 for a pre-season, and that doesn't involve the Warriors' best players. So the Chiefs Crusaders match, not this Friday, but next Friday, which kicks off Super Rugby. By God, if they don't actually get at least that and significantly more for that match in Super Rugby, how much of a concern is it?
Well, now it's contagious, obviously. You've got the same thing going on there as I keep telling you. Rugby league is more exciting because if it's not exciting one weekend, they can change the rules before the next weekend because, I know that's silly, let's change that. Whereas we've got those 10 boffins sitting there in Dublin who are running World Rugby going, oh no, everything's fine over here. Well, it's not fine down here. It's fine everywhere else in the world. We've seen what entertainment is. It's called rugby league. And they don't want to play. I see all the Super Rugby coaches want to change things to make it more continuous because every weekend, they look at rugby league and, with embarrassment and go, why can't we be faster? Why have we only got the ball in play for 32 minutes? Why has rugby league got it in play for 55 minutes? It's real, and finally you Kiwis are understanding, rugby league is actually more exciting. And rugby's got its head stuck in the mud.
Okay, here's one for you. A couple more things before we let you go, mate. And thanks always for joining us. I absolutely adore it on Thursdays. So, and I was just chatting to Rob Penney before, and we're going to have him on the program, new Crusaders coach, damn good rugby man, everything. And I was just saying, can you please clarify the All Blacks rules with us? And he says, okay, so look, for the first couple of rounds, they're only allowed to play 40 minutes. I said, is it still that ridiculous thing that they can play 5 matches? They're not allowed to play 5 full matches, then they've got to have a rest. He said, well, Razors trying to change that. Okay, so the NRL's about to start in a couple of weeks, right? Can you imagine your Broncos side? You got Payne Haas, you got Carrigan. Those guys are only allowed to play 40 minutes for the first 2 weeks. Then after 5 rounds, they have to be rested. I mean, this is how stupid it is now, and this is how much player power has absolutely suffocated the sport. People pay to see the superstars play. It's just, I don't understand it, or even think there's another sport in the world that operates under these rules where their best players don't actually play.
I saw that debate the other day. What other sport in the world is so heavily ruled and officiated? It's probably only netball, where you hear more whistles than you do in rugby union. But it's as if we're trying to say to people, the thing is, overseas, 80,000 people go watch these test matches because they don't have another option. Here, they've got to hear our voices and say, well, look, we've got these other things that are killing our sport. Please help us. We've got world champions in the All Blacks and the Australian team. We're world champions, between us 6 times or 5, 6 times, whatever. Why can't we influence them and go, please help us? We were the past of the game. Surely we're something to do with the future. Help us and make the game better.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
Devlin,
You've gotta love sport.
the platform.
I'm not into rugby versus league war, and I never have been, because I actually really enjoy watching both sports. The reason that I keep banging the drum about rugby is because I care. And I remember having a great conversation with Grant Fox when we started Radio Sport, and, the All Blacks lost 5 tests that year in 1998, and we bombed out in the World Cup in 1999. And so many of the players, I got blacklisted by half the Highlanders team. Wouldn't talk to us for years. And even my good old mate Justin Marshy went off. He didn't talk to me for 5 years. And the rugby players just got so sour and sulky about it. How dare anyone criticise us, all of that kind of stuff. But I remember talking to Fox, and he was the first guy of that kind of prominence and with that, just who commanded that kind of respect. He said, listen, the day that people like you stop criticising, stop talking about it, stop caring about it, then we have a problem. He said, then we have a real problem. And so, you hear myself and Mark Watson, and we're probably, a very small minority of people who work in the sports media in this country who continually ask these questions and continually try and expose this, because we bloody care about our national game. And I grew up with the national game, and I don't want to see our national game becoming a sideline. But this, at the moment, is a real crossroads for the sport. And you're just an idiot if you don't think otherwise. Rugby for years has existed in this country because it's existed in this country. And the successive administrations have sat on their hands just believing. And I've been in meetings where I've been told by CEOs of New Zealand Rugby, what would you know? People are always going to be watching. They're always going to be coming to the games. Well, guess what? They don't anymore. They just don't. And there's a story out today. And if you really want any absolute evidence of the crisis that this sport is, our national game is in this country at the moment, Wellington Rugby Union lost $1 million last year. They're now in a position where they say that they're going to have to sell their 50% share of the Hurricanes. Sell that to survive. They expect another loss this year of well into 6 figures. So I would determine, Locke, that well into 6 figures means probably at least $500,000. If not well into 6 figures, it might be 600,000 or 700,000, right? So they lost $1 million last year. Now, do remember, when the Silver Lake money was handed out a year ago, 27 million of that went to the provincial unions, $1 million each, to try and bolster them up to cover their costs. They still lost $1 million, Wellington. They've now moved out of playing matches at the Cape Town. They go to Jerry Collins Stadium. And you break down because, and this is the thing that they won't show us, a balance sheet of exactly what is costing what. And that's because we all know why. And we all know why that is. Santa's pig! Part of it, and a large part of it, is because they are forced to fund women's rugby that makes no money, generates no money, and costs quite a bit of money. When Mark Robinson told us last year, bear with me on this, people, when Mark Robinson told us last year that the NPC is not fit for purpose, not one journalist, or neither did John Kerwin or Jeff Wilson, who were doing that interview, ask the question, hang on a second, okay, so if the NPC is not fit for purpose, what about the Farah Palmer Cup? We all know what the answer to that is, don't we? Santa's pig! It's not fit for purpose. If the men's version is not fit for purpose, how can the women's version be fit for purpose? when it doesn't generate any income. So what you're asking Wellington Rugby to do, and every other provincial union around the country at the moment, is, and this is being enforced by the Politburo called New Zealand Rugby, who are just so obsessed with diversity and equality and everything else, to the detriment of our national game and these associations at the moment. They're saying, okay, you got a jean shop, it's barely surviving, but you're selling enough jeans. We're going to demand that you open next door to that a drive-through burger joint. Yeah, but it's not going to make any money. It doesn't matter. It's been staffed by women. We need to create jobs for women, and that burger joint. And so you're going to have to bear that loss. Yeah, well, hang on a second. Well, what's that? Just keeps losing money. You're going to have to bear that loss. And I read this from the CEO of Wellington Rugby, and I just thought, how frustrating must it be for you? You're obviously an intelligent guy. You've got this job, and you're being asked to run a business and subsidise a part of that business which is never going to make any money. And all you can do at the end of it is put your hand out again to the national administration saying, oops, we're $1 million in the hole. Because losing that much money for Wellington Rugby, who pays for that now? That's what they do. They just turn to the national administration and go, well, hang on, last year, Silver Lake, you get $27 million. We need it again. Now, I'm not jumping on women's rugby here. All I'm just saying simply is, and the men's game is at the same crossroads. NPC rugby doesn't earn any money, doesn't pay for itself, costs a crap load of money. Women's rugby doesn't earn any money, doesn't pay for itself, costs a crap load of money. At what stage, if you've got any business in front of you, and I know that you're listening and you work hard, and just put it in your own personal perspective here. You're going to work every day, you're losing money hand over fist. At what stage do you have to stop and say, this isn't working, it's costing me money, I'm just getting further and further into debt? And who's going to pay that debt off? This is just common sense I'm talking about. And these are the questions that New Zealand Rugby have got to sit down and honestly address. Just because you want to play professional sport doesn't mean that you get paid. Just because you pick up a guitar and say, I've decided to make a career as a guitarist in a band. Okay, fine, that's your lifestyle choice, but why should I be paying for it? And what do you think? Should we set up another government ministry, should we, where our taxes start paying for people to decide that they want to play professional sport? Look, I understand that all of the women in this country who play rugby work hard, train hard, all of that goes without question, of course. But if nobody's watching your product and it's not earning any money, well, then financially you don't survive. We sit here on the platform. We ask for listeners, we ask for subscriptions. We want clients to support us. If that doesn't happen, guess what happens? We don't survive. We don't exist. You know what? So I can stand here now, sit here and go, demand from the government or demand from somewhere else, New Zealand On Air or something, that you fund us just because we want to be on air. Hey, I do a great radio show, or I hope I do a great radio show. I work really hard alongside Lachlan. We do a great radio show, right? But that doesn't mean that we're going to get paid every week. You know, if there's no money coming in this side, well, there's no money coming out this side. You see what I mean? And this is where rugby is at the moment. But unfortunately, the way that the national administration works, Santa's pig, totally governed by a few social media trolls, a whole lot of feminist sports journalists in echo chamber newsrooms screaming at them, saying that they are sexist pigs because they don't support the women's game or whatever. And no one is honest enough to just put the most simple economic equation in front of everyone and say, how are you going to fund this? We can subsidise it for a little while. We can support you for a little while. We can keep paying for a little while. But eventually you have to fund yourself. And if that doesn't happen, well, it's an amateur game. It's called supply and demand. It's the most basic of economic theories under a capitalist system, which is what we live by and under and always have done. Netball, two men talking netball. News breaking today that Noeline Taurua is still alive in terms of wanting to keep the Silver Ferns job, but it's going to be put out to the marketplace to keep the integrity and transparency of the process. Jennie Wyllie, CEO, Netball New Zealand, joins us. This is obviously a decision that, as you say, has been one that you've actually had to sit there and wrestle with.
Oh, absolutely. But it was important to spend the time with Knowles as the incumbent and have a really broad discussion so that we got this right for us all going forward.
Yeah, so what does it mean that head coach is up for grabs? Does that mean that she's, her hat's still in the ring?
Absolutely. So what we wanted to do is put the job out to market, and it was really critical that we took on board, a lot of what has happened in the last 12 months for the World Cup, and our review process, and make sure that we collectively test ourselves against the very best that are out there. But yeah, Knowles is absolutely in the mix.
Does that mean that you'd be more than happy to have a coach from outside of New Zealand coaching the Silver Ferns?
Well, I think we're open to having the very best person in the job. We've got some great talent in New Zealand. The depth is there. But there's also some amazing emerging Kiwis that are offshore and others. So I think it's a process of making sure that everyone puts their best foot forward. Okay,
and Noeline has said, previous that, she was going to take some time out, take some time to actually think about it. So, is she quite happy if it goes either way, or does she really want it?
Well, I think she really wants it. She wouldn't be in the mix unless she was going to put her 100% into it. But she has also said, for integrity, transparency, the right thing, and she agrees with our position that we take this to market.
Where are we at the moment in terms of the strength of our side? Obviously our Silver Ferns side.
Yeah, look, we've had a mixed 12 months. Disappointing Netball World Cup. A few injuries and a few other things that we needed to bounce back from, and it's taken us a while. Really positive in terms of Constellation Cup and Nations Cup. We had a truckload of great, amazing new talent out there who really need some time and experience to build. So I think we've got a bit of a transition going on, but with strong leadership, we expect that to be, a great investment for the future.
Jennie is with the CEO of New Zealand Netball. In terms of still attracting, the best young female athletes to play, with obviously, rugby is there, there are other sports as well. Cricket is there, and both of these sports, can be a professional and earn quite a bit of cash at. Does that worry you at all? And have you seen any kind of data that says, hey, you should be worried about it?
Well, it's certainly something that we're very aware of. We want to ensure that we provide a great experience in our game. But interestingly, what we've found is our participation numbers are creeping back after COVID and growing year on year. And I think that's a testament to the environment and experience that we believe is really important to growing great young women who go on to represent their country. So it's absolutely a watching brief. But I think all Kiwis should have the opportunity, no matter what sport. And if more women across the board have those opportunities at an elite level, I think that's great.
What kind of thought has been put into kind of aligning with Australia in every possible way to, because two is better than one, isn't it? And they, their netball seems in a nice strong footing at the moment, financial as well. I guess I'm heading down the path of getting our teams back in their league for a start.
Yeah, look, Martin, that's absolutely something that we've had detailed discussions over. What Kiwis might not have known is they've had a bit of turmoil there in terms of both their performance environment and financial environment, and they're in a transitionary phase in terms of their leadership, but we've got really strong relationships in there and having some really good, robust conversations around what the future might look like. So I think that's it's certainly not off the cards, and it's something that we think is worth exploring more with them.
Timeline then for Coach, when can we expect an announcement?
Yeah, absolutely. So advertising imminently. And then we'll be assembling the panel, which will be made up of board members, independents and player reps. And that process will take a couple of weeks. We expect to know by the end of April and be able to announce our next Silver Ferns coach.
Waz, up the Waz. Pre-season, beginning Sunday, 4 p.m. Christchurch, 12,000 pre-season ticket sales. And the Warriors on a hell of a roll, as you know. The Legacy Heritage jersey selling out this week and picking up their People's Choice Award for Moment of the Year at the Halberg Sports Awards. Luke Metcalf. Yeah, he had this and that kind of season last year. Where's his head at now? What does he want from this new campaign? What does he expect? And will he be playing? And if so, how often? Luke Metcalf. What do these pre-season games mean exactly? I mean, what do you personally want to get out of it? What does the team want to get out of it?
So obviously it's just everything we've been putting we want to put into practice what we've been training on the last probably 2 or 3 months. So it's just more or less sort of coming out and just trying to really narrow your focus on a few certain things that to try and set yourself up for the season. Because obviously, yeah, like I said, that's not the be-all, end-all, but there's a lot of young boys playing, there's a few old boys playing, so it's a bit of a mix that can sort of get a bit scrappy at times. But, I feel like if you could just narrow your focus and go out there and try and get a select few things done, it can probably be a bit of a better game.
Has Webby indicated that if you play well in these games that's going to mean a start? Does he ever say anything like that?
No, he hasn't really said anything like that. He just talks to all of us individually, just about to do your role and know what your job is. And he has I know for me personally, he has a select few things that he wants me to do, and just chats to me about that, and just making sure I do those. And hopefully that puts my best foot forward to be in the team.
Luke, you played bloody well at 6 last year when you had Sean next to you. 7 or 6, what do you prefer, mate?
To be honest, I see myself as a 7, like on forward. Like that's the position I grew up naturally playing, and that's sort of where I feel most comfortable. But I really enjoy playing next to Sean, like playing that 6 role. He's so awesome to learn off. Like he's so knowledgeable and such a good. So I really enjoyed doing that last year. But like I said, in the long run, that 7 halfback role is something that I feel comes natural to me and something that I'd like to do.
Now, I'm going to be honest about this. There were times as well where you didn't play as well as you wanted to, and I know that, and you expressed frustration about that. So what did you learn from those experiences as well, and how valuable is that now when you look back at it and you go, crikey, that didn't work out as well as I wanted. I wish I'd done this. Yeah,
it's always those sort of things you want to, like I said, you want to learn from them, because if you don't learn from them, then I suppose it is a failure. But, as long as you can take what you've done good and what you've done wrong and sort of trying to fix some things and blend it with the things you've been doing well, I know that I'll be fine. But I feel like I played a little bit different role than I was used to last year. But I really enjoyed sort of each game. I felt like I was getting more of an understanding of what the team needed from me and how I could sort of slot into that role. So I feel like as well with another pre-season under my belt and knowing how Webby wants to play, and I feel like it's just going to do me the world of good, and I really can't wait to play.
Luke Metcalf from the Warriors is with us, and 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon, the first pre-season game in Christchurch. People, you're on the platform. So, and forgive me for asking this as well, but I mean, here on this side of the microphone, I mean, we overthink things, mate, and we probably think about a hell of a lot of stuff that you guys don't actually think about. But just in terms of the way the team wants to play style-wise, do you talk about that at all?
We talk about it a lot. One of the things that we sort of pride ourselves on is everyone knowing what's required of them and what their role is within the team and certain parts of the field, and whether we're defending or attacking. It's something that I think makes us a good team, that we're all sort of Webby's really big on clarity and everyone knowing their role and knowing their job. So we do talk about that a lot. Okay, so I'm asking that because I'm interested to know, is it going to be any different? Is what we're going to watch going to look any different than the way the team played last year? Obviously there'll be a lot of similarities, because I thought we attacked really well. Like you saw how nice our tackle was last year, and obviously our defence was a lot better. But I think there's been a few tweaks. I think obviously there's areas where we can get better, but I think there'll be a little bit of differences too. I know there's a couple of things in our attack that was sort of changed up a little bit, but nothing too crazy. I feel like our style last year was pretty reliable, so I feel like nothing too crazy to change, but I know we've been working hard to sort of change a couple of things that we wanted to change. One of the most impressive things, and it kicked off right from the very first game of the season against Newcastle, was the fitness levels, and especially the ability in the last 20 minutes to come down the goddamn middle at other teams. And I think that was a real surprise factor. Other teams weren't probably expecting it, because the traditional Warriors side up until then faded in that last 20 minutes, but you blokes were bloody strong then. Do you feel like, after this off-season, just in terms of your own fitness, strength, power, all of that's gone up another level? Yeah, I do. Personally, this is probably the best I've ever felt after a pre-season. Just my body and just mentally, I feel good. And I suppose I can't speak for every single person individually, but I feel like as a team, as a collective, we're really fit and everyone looks strong, and they're raring to go, especially how last year finished off. I feel like it left a bit of taste in everyone's mouth, so everyone came back to pre-season ready to go, and hopefully I feel like we're as fit or fitter and stronger, so yeah, I feel like hopefully we can get a fast start. Sorry.
I like hearing the fact that you say, it ended on what you know is and feel is a sour note, because Andrew Webster on the program has said this to us as well, that, hey, falling short like that, you're there to win the competition and things. And I asked you this question yesterday. Have you set yourselves, or do you set yourselves a minimum standard saying, hey, we finished top 4 last year, so it's got to be that again? Or how do you guys view that yourselves?
No, we haven't really spoken too much about what is a minimum. Obviously, every team, the 17 teams in the comp, everyone's got the same goal. They want to win the grand final. But yeah, we haven't really said, this is the minimum we want to do, or if we get here, we'll be happy. Like we just want to take each game as it comes, and we know if we do that, similar to what we did last year, we didn't look too far ahead. We didn't look too far behind. We just looked at who that was in front of us that week. I feel like that's something we did really good as a team. We sort of narrowed our focus, and I feel like we're just going to do the same this year. Yeah, just sort of not. Obviously, sometimes it's easy to sort of look ahead and go, we're going really good, and sort of start looking towards the finals. But yeah, I just think we needed focus on who we're playing that week, and it'll be sweet.
On a personal basis, how competitive are you? Do you like the fact that Chanel's back, that Sean's there, and you're going to say, I want those jobs. I want to be better than those guys?
Yeah, it's cool. Like, I don't mind it at all. Like, obviously, I feel like it makes everyone train better and everyone play better. So, and we all enjoy learning off each other, and I get along with those guys on and off the field. So, I feel like we've got a good little crew there, and we're all enjoying it.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
We're going to talk some league as well with Luke Metcalf, and that in about half an hour or so. 5 separate sporting topics, though, roughly a minute or so on each. When this happens, we move on to the next topic. Sunday the 3rd of March is when the NRL is underway. The Warriors play a trial match, as you know, 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon in Christchurch in front of what's going to be a big boisterous crowd. What do you expect from that match? What are we going to learn from it, Lachlan? Sport Moment of the Year, voted for by the people at the Halberg Awards last night, went to the Warriors. What does that tell you? Is it shifting sands in terms of where Kiwi sports fans' attention is being spent most? As I said, second test, day 3. How does this day end for New Zealand versus South Africa? Travis Kelce apologises on his podcast for bumping and pushing Andy Reid. 49ers have fired their defensive coordinator, and shots were fired. And I mean literally. How hideous is that? At the Kansas City Celebration Parade today. 10 Melbourne Rebels backroom staff made redundant, including the CEO, who's a reasonably important position for a Super Rugby franchise. The rest of them, including the players and the coaches, on 4-month contracts till the end of the competition. Stick a fork in lock. Are they done? Let's kick it off, though, with the second test against SA. 101-3 they are, 132-run lead. Against all expectations. I'm sitting there yesterday thinking this is a G team and we should be given the absolute biff to this. And what happens? Well, eat humble pie, because South Africa fought hard yesterday and they deserve to bowl us all out. Some appalling batting shots from New Zealand. But I'm going to go through some stats here for you, Lachlan. 5 test series that we have played recently since the beginning of 2021. We lost at home to Bangladesh by 8 wickets. We bounced back in the second test and won by an innings and 117 runs. Following that, we beat South Africa by an innings and 276 runs, then lost the second test to them by 198 runs. So you can see the turnaround that's happening. Last February, we lost to England inside 4 days by 267 runs. We then go down to Wellington and beat them with the very last ball from Wagner. We follow that against Sri Lanka in Christchurch with a 1-run last ball dodgy win against a really weak Sri Lankan side, and then absolutely towel them in the second test by an innings and 58 runs. First test against South Africa of this tour, we win it by 1,000 runs. Or what is it, 200 and something, 89 or 300 or something in Mount Maunganui. And now we're right up against it again. So this alarming pattern of these 2 test series where we seem to play really well in one of them and demolish the opposition, and I say demolish the opposition, apart from England, of course, and then completely and utterly turn turtle for the second test. And look, if once this happens, twice is coincidence, thrice is enemy action, said Ian Fleming, Goldfinger, the James Bond book. So what is this telling us? And how much of a worry is
You
it?
brought up the Bangladesh ones recently as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, does that mean that they're going to beat
team
us?
just can't string it together.
Well, like 2 matches in a row.
Yeah.
Does that mean that they're going to win this test? Do you honestly believe that?
No.
Give me the percentage at the moment on Google. Now, we started this the other day. It was 14%. I guffawed, I mocked, I said, please.
Went down to as low as 9.
Okay. It should have been less than 1 to start with.
Now the draw is 2%.
Okay, that means that they're going to
South Africa.
Yeah, they're going to have to bat all day today.
42% chance.
Bollocks, mate. There's no 42%.
We are 56.
We cannot lose to this side, this particular...
Well, they're batting and they're leading. So they're 101 for 3. We're in the second session. We're not even halfway through the second session. And they have a lead of 132. This is day 3. So if they can build a handy enough lead, based on what we saw yesterday, they can absolutely rip through us.
Yeah.
We've got about 3 or 4 guys who are really out of form.
All right, mate.
Really out of form.
I don't want to listen to it. I don't want to hear it.
I'd give them more than... I'd give them 55, 60%.
Okay, so...
Seriously.
What kind of a lead will they set? What kind of a lead should we fear? Now, remember, they scored 242 in the first innings. We scored 211. I think anything over 250, and I'm starting to worry, which means that they only have to get another 120 runs off 7.
It's a mental thing. Once you get into 300, it's just a mental thing.
It is a mental thing.
I think... Well, I said before play started that we'll bowl them out for 150.
Same.
134. If this gets to about 260, I'm not feeling good.
Okay. We'll keep you updated with scores right throughout the afternoon, people. Sport moment of the year. Were you surprised that the Warriors won it? Did they deserve to win it?
I'm not surprised because I realised this morning, I think you told me, it's voted by the fans.
Yeah.
So all the Warriors fans would have just got around the wagon, hopped on, trucked on down to the Hellbergs and placed their vote. Obviously, they placed the vote on their phones and whatnot. But so that makes total sense.
Okay, but what does that tell you, though? What that says to me is how engaged they are, the Warriors fans, right? I mean, okay, you can drag up some conspiracy theories and say, hey, it's just 100 people voting 1,000 times. Whatever it is, they've absolutely taken the time to do it. So it doesn't matter whether it is that or isn't that. They've taken the time to do it, which means All Blacks fans, which is meant to be all of us, didn't bother voting. That means that sports fans who... under a suffocation blanket of mainstream media coverage of the Women's World Cup, which is the greatest and biggest sporting event that's ever happened in the whole world, let alone in New Zealand, obviously didn't affect this country as much as what we were told it was, because that Hannah Wilkinson moment was a hell of a moment, right?
Yeah.
Neil Wagner getting the last wicket against England.
But do you trust cricket fans to jump on their phones and vote for Hellberg moment of the year? I don't.
Well, see, no. Okay, so what it says is that the Warriors fans are active, doesn't it? That's what it says.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Which is
active.
why... that the heritage jersey sold out in 18 minutes, which is why 12,000 tickets have been sold for this pre-season match in Christchurch. Again, I started the show by saying, it doesn't mean that rugby league is taking over the country. It doesn't mean the Warriors are our favourite team. What it means is that the fan base is really engaged.
Yeah,
and New Zealand rugby,
consistently.
you can tell us as much as you like about fan engagement, the fan
Time frame lapsed in terms of being able to make that happen. We drew back to one game, and then ultimately we thought the best thing to do for a variety of reasons was to take that offshore to the west coast of the States.
It's just words, mate.
When the Rugby World Cup was on last year, it was clear that the All Blacks are still king.
Yes.
Like they had, just over 1 million viewers watching their opening match against France, and that same night was Warriors-Panthers, and the Warriors-Panthers had maybe 750,000, so it was clear. The thing is, as you said there, it's a wave motion. The All Blacks have a period of about 3 or 4 months where they are the kings of sport in New Zealand, but outside of that, there's not a lot of engagement with them at all.
None.
And
Zero.
And it comes down to a number of factors. I mean, the All Blacks fan base is predominantly an older male crowd, isn't it? I think, like sort of similar to a cricket crowd.
I think they've got a lot of social media clickers, but I don't think they have a lot of people who actually actively go after, support, and do what the Warriors fans do. Look, and that quote, that texter who said, you walk around city streets at the moment is exactly right. You don't see All Black jerseys. You see All Black jerseys on...
Well, you see NRL jerseys.
On visitors to New Zealand more than you see New Zealanders here wearing them.
Well, you see NRL jerseys as well. I think it also partly comes down to the sport itself is much more exciting, much more engaging.
Simple as that.
And I was going to say something else around the Warriors fans. It slipped my mind. Part of it, I would think, we've said this before, is there's a real love affair with the Warriors because they are rubbish.
They have been.
They've been rubbish for 20, however long, that 30 years they've been around.
26 years. Mostly rubbish.
And the All Blacks win all the time, so we're just used to it.
Yeah. So what do you expect, if anything, to come out of this trial match against West Tigers? What are we going to learn?
Nothing.
Zero.
It's pre-season.
Yeah, pre-season. It's pre-season.
It'll be a fun day out for the fans, that's it.
To AI, Alan Iverson. That great interview. It's practice. It's practice.
Yeah.
It's one of the best sports interviews of all time, where I think he was suspended for a game because he was late for practice, or he wasn't working hard as he could in practice, and he just spent the whole time going, "It's practice." How do I explain this? It's practice. It's pre-season, people. It's pre-season. Tell me the results of the Super Rugby matches up in Japan and in the UK in pre-season. I think the Crusaders lost to Munster. I think they beat Bristol. I don't know. I'll ask Rob Penney about that in a second. But no one cares about what happens in pre-season. The only thing we care about is that our best favourite players don't get injured. Travis Kelce apologises on his podcast for bumping Andy Reid. I don't know if there's anything more predictable since Patrick Mahomes, 2 yards out from the line, was going to throw the touchdown pass to win it. Of course he was going to apologise. I would have been more interested in this story if the Chiefs hadn't have won, how it would have unfolded then. Because then it would have been a real issue. Because they won and everyone's got a new ring, it's easy to forget this and wash it away. And the more I've thought about it, the more I've thought, look, players, heat of the moment stuff and everything. But you were right yesterday when you pointed out to me that he pushed and bumped a 70-year-old man who's his coach. And now he's saying, I love the guy and I do all of this. Well, mate, at that moment you didn't.
Yeah.
At that moment, the real you came out.
Do it to a teammate.
Because you might be the nicest guy on the planet, Trav, and you might have Tay-Tay and everything else. But that's also you. What we saw, that anger and that violent act, is you. It's as much of you as anything is. Under the heat of the moment.
Sort of prior to him and Jason, I love Jason Kelce. Everyone loves Jason Kelce. Plays for my Eagles. Big fan. He's obviously retired now.
I love him more nude or in the mask.
Yeah. Well, I love the visuals of Travis putting his jacket around Taylor and them kissing and dancing. And in the background, there's Jason Kelce with a Mexican wrestling mask on.
Anyway, mate, he's the guy at the party that you're hanging with, isn't he? I'm not hanging with Trav and Tay-Tay. I'm hanging with Jace.
He's like a potato farmer
I'm hanging with Jace.
But I never liked Travis before he and Jason started doing their podcast, because there have been moments, I remember them really well. It was at the end of a playoff game in like 2017 where there was a call that went against the Chiefs and he didn't like it, and he was swearing at the cameras and having a go at the refs and saying they should never be allowed anywhere near a footlocker, let alone an NFL game. And he was swearing away, and I thought, well, look, mate, fair enough. You can be, you're emotional, whatnot. It's a man's sport. We're all idiots and buffheads. But surely you got a little bit of class not to swear in front of the cameras.
I would have. Yeah, and so, those two incidents say to me that, the happy la Travis Kelce, there is another side to you, mate.
He's a fun-loving, happy guy, but I think there's an immaturity / a temper to him.
Well, probably with all of us.
Don't tell the Swifties.
Probably with all of us.
Ooh.
Finally, and... I find this really sad news. There's nothing at all about this particular story that I like. The fact that 10 Rebels backroom staff, including the CEO, have been made redundant. I hate that word. It's one of the worst words in the English language next to boyfriend. All right? So you're looking at a hot tart, and all of a sudden, the boyfriend appears.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you react?
Who are you out with? I'm just here with my mate. My friend's my boyfriend.
As soon as you see the boyfriend or hear the word boyfriend, how do you react? You just turn away this way.
You're just not interested. You turn away. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care.
We're not having conversation friendly.
Girls are the opposite.
Oh,
when you say you got a girlfriend,
terrible,
they love
mate.
it.
They will now try and flirt with you.
Yeah.
Even in front of your girlfriend. They will. That's what women do. Evil species.
You get much. I'd say me and many friends have said it to each other. You get much more attention when you got a girlfriend.
Listen, when I got married, and for a long time I didn't put the ring on the finger because I just felt weird about it. As soon as I put the ring on the finger, Lachlan, I'm telling you straight away, mate, within minutes. Oh yeah. Oh, Mart, he's hitting first serves in. Yeah. Mate, women are evil. Women get ready and look beautiful. Not for men.
For themselves.
And for other women to look at. Hot bitch, skinny bitch. You think you're hot, don't you? This is it. The competitiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't gloss over this. Anyway, the fact that 10 have been made redundant, I feel for every single one of those people. And now that the rest of the staff, including the players and the coaches, are on 4-month contracts, And here we had the big rah-rah Super Rugby launch yesterday. And, this is not just an elephant in the room. This is a herd of them in the room, Super Rugby. You imagine if that was an NRL side that had just done that. How big a story is that?
Massive.
And yet, you can't get any of the administrators in New Zealand Rugby or anywhere else to front up on this and actually seriously sit down and talk about what a worry this is. Wellington Rugby, as we said an hour ago, posted $1 million loss last year. They expect to post at least the same this year. They're going to have to sell their stake in the Hurricanes. Now, they're one of the biggest unions in the country. And the Melbourne Rebels side, 20 million in the hole, going to be more in the hole at the end of the year. This is where the sport is sitting, ladies and gentlemen, right now, in this part of the world. And anyone who thinks that it's not.
In the UK as well. Look at all the clubs that shut down over there.
Hey, but if you listen to Mark Robinson, it's all about creative new technologies, exciting new synergies. Rob Penney, the new Crusaders coach. Big shoes to fill. Back to back to back to back to back to back to back. Super Rugby champions. Did I miss one in their Razors record? Just second to none. I mean, how do you follow that? And also, how do you replace Richie Mo'unga? There are some selection questions for the Crusaders, and I've been reading a lot of thoughts and predictions from those who attended the big Super Rugby press conference opener yesterday, and they're all predicting the demise of this Crusaders side. Well, does he believe that? Here's Rob Penney. How prepared are you? Are you as prepared as you want to be?
Yeah, we're actually in pretty good shape, Marty. We've had a great couple of weeks up in the Northern Hemisphere. It's not usual that you'll be playing a pre-season game in front of 42,000 people. So that was a pretty unique occasion. And then we've had a core group of people back here beavering away, and we've reconnected this week, and we're up against a really good Highlanders team tomorrow down in Methven. So, yep, we're in good shape, thanks.
Okay, so, your biggest All Blacks, your top players didn't play those particular games, and I know that you're kind of using and rotating the rest of your squad. Is it a great opportunity for you at the moment just to learn about those other players? Because you know what your All Blacks can bring.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a depth of knowledge that you can only get through the contest, and that's what we've obviously been able to do up north, and another opportunity on Friday afternoon to see what these younger men and the next generation are able to contribute to this great organisation. So it's awesome, yeah.
Talk to us about your young first five and stepping into probably the biggest shoes to fill out of any team. This is the guy that's got to run the cutter, and we all know how good Richie Mo'unga was in a Crusaders jersey.
Yeah, well, he's no longer with us, as you say, and has left a great legacy. So we've got a few options there. Obviously, Rivers Reihana, who everyone will know well from previous experience with the Chiefs and Northland, who drove the ship around really nicely for us against Bristol. And then Taha Kimura, who's done an outstanding job last year under 20s. And someone that has a massive future and did a great job in front of 42,000 at Munster. And we've still got Tane Robinson, who is a really valuable player for us at 10 and 15, and then Fergus coming back to us in about 6 weeks, Fergus Burke, who's coming off that Achilles. So we've got some nice options there, and we're excited about, I guess, a start of a new dynasty, hopefully, with a new 10, and Richie's legacy, which has been such a great one, can be continued.
Rob Penney with us, Super Rugby, big captain's launch yesterday, and the comp underway, not this weekend, following the weekend, and you start up with the biggest challenge that there is in this competition against the Chiefs side, where Luke Jacobson said yesterday, there's bad blood and unfinished business. What do you read into that?
Well, exactly what he said. You can't get any more venomous than that, really. And I heard an interview with Luke earlier on in the year saying they'd had trouble lying on the beach because it had
rocks under the towel kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, left. So they've obviously been thinking about this rematch for a long time, and it's probably been eating away at them. I can understand that, being in that situation myself as a coach and as a player. So I guess it adds another level of intensity and expectation around the fixture. The reality is this is a new team from our end. The boys that won the super final last year, there's a number of them that have moved on, and this is a new group trying to establish itself. So we won't be focusing too much on what noises are coming out of the Chiefs and so forth, but really respect what they've done in the last 5 or 6 years, and it'll be a tremendous battle up there, and particularly in their hometown of Hamilton when we launched the Super program off with what was the last game last year as a rematch of the first game this year. So it'll be exciting whatever way you look at it.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do though is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.